Alrighty, looks like we are live. What's up, David? How you doing today, man?
Great, Michael. How about you?
Doing amazing. It's a Friday. Gotta love that.
Yep.
Even though, we don't look forward to the weekends. We love every day of what we do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so excited to have you here, David, because a lot of people in real estate investing have similar challenges. And I would say one of our biggest challenges as a real estate investor in a company has been exactly what you preach all the time. But for people who don't know who David Richter is, can you kind of give us a high level view of who you are and what you're about?
Sure. So I've been in real estate probably the past 10 years ish, maybe a little bit longer. Read Rich Dad Poor Dad in college. That sealed the deal. Started buying some houses in Northwest Indiana outside of Chicago. Then wanted to see what the real estate world was all about, like from a business perspective. So joined a company that was doing about 5 wholesale deals a month. And then over the next 5 years, grew it, with them to about 25 deals a month. And that was cool, being able to have that whole experience and getting to sit in different seats, like the acquisitions, dispositions, and marketing and sales, and project management, property management, finances. Like gotta sit in all of it. And then from there, just seeing a bunch of different deal types as well too, from wholesale, fix and flip, turnkey, rentals, lease options, subject to deals. So really got a big education, and we did about 800 deals while I was there, so got to see a lot of deals done. But then there too was where I saw we were doing 25 deals a month. And near the end, I was sitting in the finance seat and saw we were spending about 26 worth out the door every month too. So it was like, why are we doing this? Like, we're busting our butts to get this many deals in the door, and then we're just sending it all out and nothing really to show for it at the end of the day. So that's where I also started going to mastermind events, kind of hearing the same things as well too. Like, hey, we're making $2 million, or $5 million. They're like sending at the front of the room or whatever. And later at the bar they're crying because they're like, I have no idea where it's all going though, or like I feel broke all the time, and what in the world am I doing? I'm like, this is probably pretty big problem, across the board. And that's where that turned into working with another investor. I moved across the country with my family, be closer to other family. And that's where at that point worked with this one investor and said, I need to know your numbers. Like at this point, now I don't trust anything. I just trust the books. Like I want to know that you're healthy. So dove in, and there was nothing set up really. I mean, he had a bookkeeper, but wasn't a real estate investing bookkeeper, didn't know what was going on, had no clarity in the business. Cleaned all that up, like helped him know what he was making, spending, keeping, then also helped him know where his money was. And it was all tied up in his rentals. He had about 30% loan to value. So it's 70% equity. And I'm like, do you want this much equity, or you want to pull this out? Like, this is your money. He's like, that's where it is. So that's where he pulled out some money and was able to do what he wanted with it. Bought another rental property and like saved some for, in cash and reserves, and then to be able to lend out. Then from there, that was an eye-opening experience to me, because he said, like, now that I know where my money is, and now I know where like I can actually use this money, like this has been life-changing. Like now I feel like in control of the business. I'm like, I want to give this control to the real estate investing industry. That's where I started the business that I have today, and that's what even got me into Profit First. A mentor told me, have you read Profit First? Like, before you start this company, you should read that book. I think you'd really like it. So I read that book that night. He told me about it, took like 10 pages of notes, and then said, yeah, this is a great framework. So then started that framework with the cash flow as a part of the business. Then from there, a year into it, went to the actual author of Profit First, which is Mike McCallowitz, and said, I've been in the real estate world, done like 850 deals now up to this point, and been a part of all those transactions. Now I know, and I've been able to implement Profit First in these businesses, and said, could I write Profit First for real estate investing? So I actually authored that book and launched that in December 2021 after 18 months of pure just writing and editing and lots of stuff. So that's kind of my 5-minute background of my story and what we're doing today, just trying to get the Profit First message out, because a lot of people make money but feel broke as entrepreneurs in real estate, especially in the real estate world, because if you're fixing and flipping too, you have money going in and out all the time. You got a new project. Oh shoot, where are we getting the funds? Do I need to put my own in there? Did we get the private money or the hard money or whatever? So money is going through your fingers all the time. And sometimes you feel really rich and sometimes not so much. So just
Yeah.
trying to get that to even out.
Yeah, it's like the roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship, except for with
Yep.
flipping. It's the ups and the downs. And so for those of you who are tuning in live and catching up to speed here, David has been with the company as a leadership and kind of wore a lot of hats. And they were doing 25 flips a month, but they had 26 worth of expenses going out. So if you've been an active flipper, if you're an active real estate investor, thank God that guy had as much equity as he did in those flips, because not everyone does.
Yeah,
So
that's
if
true.
if you're putting your cash into properties, you need to know where it's at. And so this was a huge game changer for us. I was riding that roller coaster
Yeah.
um, a year ago, and to be honest, like we're still not where we want to be in terms of the profit first, like using other people's money, because it's just convenient to use your own money in these flips, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I need 40,000 for a renovation. I'll just use that here. But by the time you do that 3, 4, or 5 times, pretty soon you have 10, 15 flips out. Now what? And so I think it's just that experience was like probably a Harvard degree
Hmm.
in profit, just understanding
Right.
the cash cycle of these flips. And so I'd love to talk and dive more into that, man. So
Yeah, let's do it.
what was that experience like? Like working in that company, like what did you do? Like you said you were wearing a lot of hats. Did you transition basically just wherever you needed the most help, or how was that overall
Yeah,
experience?
so that was like a Harvard experience of just small business, which was amazing. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Bought my first house, and then I started asking around, like, is there someone that's doing this full time? Like, I want to get around these people, and like, I want to know how I can get more properties and like just know this business. So there was a guy at our church. So I went to this guy at our church and talked to him, and he said, come in on nights and weekends, and like we'll talk. So I think it was like 8 months worth that I met with him random nights and some weekends and started doing things for him in the business. Then he finally said, hey, why don't you quit what you're doing? Come work with me. And then, like you can start working with us and doing some of these roles. So the first role I had was like acquisitions, but it was back then they were putting offers in on HUD and like on the auction sites because they were like, this was 2014 still. HUD had a ton of foreclosures on there. The properties were aplenty and not just direct to seller. But we saw the market shifting. So he wanted to go direct to seller. So I got that up and running at that company. And then from there, it was, helping sell in one of the territories as well, too, because once I had that up and running, then someone else took over. And then like you said, I moved around. I was the utility guy, like, what's broken? Let's go in there, fix it. I did property management for a while on the like 100 lease options. Like he had 80 lease options, I think, and like 20 just straight rentals. So I got management experience there where I literally had one in office person and one virtual assistant. And then we managed that whole portfolio. And honestly, the virtual assistant was making a ton of the calls and the outbound. So we had systematized that from like Brandon Turner's book on rental management, rental property management. So that was pretty cool. Then from there, it was like transaction coordination mixed with I think a little bit of like project management as well too. So I was doing those two things for some of the flips and then, making sure the deal's closed. Got that rolling. Then the last seat I sat in was finance. So that was the one that I had, up until the end. And that's where I got my crash course on the background. I know like if you're watching this live, I look like the numbers person, but I'm not, even though I run like a fractional CFO company, I'm actually not like I love the numbers person. I'm very much the entrepreneur. I love deals. I love going and like doing something and making a big impact like that and not just counting the beans at the end of the day. But that's where I got a very healthy respect of learning how to read where the beans are going and like what is going on. Like, oh shoot, we're making 25 deals a month, but we're spending 26. Like something has to change here. So that was where we're really learning the numbers and the story of the business. And that's not something everyone gets an opportunity to do because it was a bigger company. I could literally focus on that one area. That's why going into like the profit first and why I'm so passionate about this now is that you don't have to sit down for a year with your accountant and become this accounting person to implement a financial system like profit first. Like you could be the entrepreneur, the person who doesn't love numbers and actually implement this and see a result of where your cash is going. So that's where I even like, why I like that. But that's a couple of things that I was doing there and the different roles and a lot of the different things. While I was there too, that some people listening, I don't know, we might have worked with you because I ran a small side hustle where we were installing Podio Like we were setting up customized podio systems. Like me and my partner would come fly out for a week, sit down with the owner and build out like this custom podio thing. So this was not just like the template things. We would actually sit down and walk through their process with them and then just build that in podio and have the working, prototype basically within a week. So we were doing that as well too, which was awesome because then I got to see a lot of processes, systems from behind the scenes and think about that. So that was another kind of cool thing that I was doing there. So I've seen a ton of operations and a ton of different real estate companies and then a ton of deals done as well. So I've got a lot of unique experience when it comes
Wow.
to real estate investing.
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, guys, like that, all of that stuff is welcome to the life of a full-time real estate investor, right?
Right. Yes.
Like we're wearing this hat, we're wearing this hat, we're wearing
Yep.
all these hats. But it's crazy to me that you told me that you took Brandon Turner's book on property management and then like formulated a property management process and
We
gave him.
oh
That's
yeah.
pretty
It,
cool.
it was awesome. We had like 99% collections and we were like in Gary, Hammond, like some of the areas that you wouldn't think are the greatest and we had some all over and it was just we literally outlined that book and because I was a Podio master, I put it into Podio and was like, here, this is the process we're going to follow. This is the application. This is what we're going to do. This is the next steps. This is what we meet on every day. We had a daily huddle because we ran off of EOS. So I ran that like department like its own company with EOS. So, okay, we're going to have this daily huddle. We're going to talk about the tenants, like who's late, who is moving out, to what turns do we have? Like there were certain things that we went over every single day. And then from there, it was the weekly meeting, and then the monthly meeting as well, too. So, yeah, I love that process because we got it down to where literally one VA could manage about 100 properties.
Yeah, that's insane to me. But it didn't happen just by throwing stuff together. Like this took a
Oh,
lot of
no.
time. This
Oh,
took a
no.
lot of attention and
Yeah,
detailed processes. Like I'm blown
big
away
time.
by that. Like
Yeah,
we're gonna have to talk probably more detail about that. But
sure.
this guy had he was selling Podio too. So like I imagine this guy had several businesses probably, right? Like
Oh,
not
Podio
just
was
this
my
one.
thing. Podio was my thing with
So
the
so
other
he
parties. So
lets you run.
he let me do that on the side because by this time, like all the work was virtual. So I could get my work done, and then take some week. I took about 1 week. I think it was 1 week a month that year or 2 weeks a month that year, and did about 20 installs, custom installs. And yeah, he was letting us do that, which was awesome. So I got my taste of my first company there. But this guy did have several entities. He did have wholesale, fix and flip, turnkey, like he had several of those types of deals going on. But and then I did give him a small piece of that company as well too. So he had, a little bit part ownership in it. So that gave him incentive as well too to, as a burgeon, entrepreneur there, budding entrepreneur trying to get wings off the ground and
Yep.
he liked that. So yeah, it was cool. I say all the time, so many people have poured into me and have been just incredible to me. And that's why I love what I get to do now because I feel like this is me giving back. Like, stop the deal to deal cycle. Stop living paycheck to paycheck. Like, as an entrepreneur, like, you can get off of that rat race. So that's why I'm so passionate about it now because, like, now I see that if I would have had the knowledge I have today when I was sitting in that finance seat, like, I could have revolutionized, where they were sitting just because of and simple things that we could have implemented too. So I'm like, I just want to bring this information out to the to the entire world.
Yeah, and I love your passion behind it because it's something that, like, in school, you just don't learn. You don't learn how to manage a balance sheet. You don't learn how to
Right.
assets and liabilities and profit allocations and all these things. And so, like, if there's a full-time real estate investor watching this right now who doesn't know all of their cash is, who is flipping properties, they're making millions of dollars,
Yeah.
but they don't even know how much they're keeping. Like, what is the very first thing that they should be thinking about or doing actionable that they can take
Yeah.
from this?
So
Well, buy the book,
I'm,
first of all,
oh,
Profit
sure.
First for Real
Sure.
Estate Investors.
I'll tell you the overview. I'm going to tell you two big things. The first one is if you're in that place, you might be running your business off the hope and pray plan. Like, I hope I'm profitable and I pray that there's money at the end of the day or year. Hopefully there's some money somewhere versus knowing what I need from my business. Am I keeping anything of it and am I attacking it aggressively, like that number? So find what you need to keep and then have that as your North Star. That would be number one. is like, I need to find what I need, not what some random person, like where you've got some dork who comes on who says they're doing 25 deals a month, and like, oh, that sounds amazing. I want to do 25 deals a month. It's like, well, it's not amazing if you're spending 26. So it's like, what do you need to do for your business? And what is that number? Talk to your significant other, talk to your spouse, talk to your business partner. Like, make sure the people that the money that you bring home affects are in on this decision too, of like, here's what the business needs. And I'm going to make sure that I'm getting to that number as quickly as possible. Or if I'm already there, making sure that I know that I can take this now and it's going to be okay. Like, the business will be okay.
So
That'd be
have your
number one.
number. Yep.
Number one, find that key number. Number two, set up the profit first system. That would be number two, because the second biggest mistake I see is that most entrepreneurs and investors have one big bank account, and that's how they're managing the full financial aspect of their business. They pull up their bank and say, okay, on my app, how much money do I have? I have this much. Okay, I can spend it on this marketing campaign. We're good to go. It's like, that's where most entrepreneurs run it like that. That's how the extent of their financial back end of making decisions. That's why I love profit first. You even said the words like assets, liabilities, balance sheet, P&L. And that's why I love profit first, because we don't really even touch that portion. While that is uber important and we'll get there, I just want to help people with the management of where every dollar goes in their business, because the profit first system gives every dollar a name, just like Dave Ramsey's envelope system. Love him or hate him, I love the principle of his envelopes, of where you need to make sure that every dollar that comes through your fingers, you are directing and giving a name for it. So the profit first system is literally like a modernized envelope system like that, where you set up literally different bank accounts and you say, these are the accounts that I know where every dollar is going, and making sure I know and have clarity. What's mine? What can I spend? What's for me, for my pay? What's for my profit? What's for my taxes? Like, making sure you have some fundamental accounts, which I can go into like what those accounts are if you want me to. But that's where, if you set up a system like this, it helps you have that clarity, where if you have that one bank account and have a bunch of confusion, don't know what's yours, what's the IRS's, is some of this my profit? Like, if I take some money out, do I need to feel guilty about taking money out, because will payroll still run? Or, like, are there some checks out there that are outstanding and I'm going to like overdraft? It's like those types of fears that a lot of people have when they don't have the grasp on their business, and they're wondering why am I in this real estate rat race? Like, why do I feel like I'm not getting ahead? Because a lot of people have bad habits that have literally put them there, where they weren't good managers of their own money. And then they think that just because they got into a business and they're making more money, that's going to get better, that more money, more deals solves the problem. And then they get into a horrible situation, where I see a lot of this on the back end of what we do, of like, shoot, they're already at like $2 million and they still have no idea where the money's going. We've got to rewind some of this stuff and make sure that they've got a better thought process and action plan going forward of where every dollar goes. So that's number two. There's, really getting the profit first system in place, setting up those bank accounts, making sure you actually have a plan for each dollar that comes into your business. That would be the two big points I would say. Find your keep number, set up the actual system, set up different bank accounts, give every dollar a name in your business.
Amazing. Wow. A lot of gems right there. So if you're watching this live, guys, feel free to start thinking about questions that you have for David. In anything and everything, we'll open it up here for 5 minutes at the end to ask some questions. But in the meantime, I do have some questions, David. So
fire away.
We've been doing Profit First for about 1.5 years now.
Yeah.
And it's been an absolute game changer for our business. The income comes into the one account. We set aside profits. We know where all of our money is going. However, I have a question. At some point we reach a position where we either have more than we want in our income account, or maybe on the opposite side with the ebbs and flows, we have 3 flips sell this month, and then we have a month that's like this, where maybe we don't have any flips sell. So
Sure.
if my income account is 0, let's just say, or if my income account is very small in a month that I didn't sell any flips, do I just allocate nothing for operations for the next month, because I had allocated the percentage that I was supposed to from the previous month? Does that make sense?
So that's where now you're getting into the fun part. That's honestly, this is why I have Simple CFO, because most people don't know how to project and be able to run the cash side. Because if you can just get it to where you set at the bank accounts, that's like a huge step in the right direction in knowing like, okay, here's how the money's flowing. But if you know there's going to be, usually that is not a surprise to people. Like, you know that sometimes you're going to close more and sometimes you're going to close nothing. And that's where in real estate, it's so, like we even talked about, so cyclical, so up and down, the roller coaster effect. So if you know three properties are closing, maybe I have one closing scheduled for next month, but I know that properties don't always close on time. So what if that property doesn't close? With these three closings I got, which are like some extra, how many months can I put into OpEx? How many months can I put into owner's pay, like from these deals that just closed? Can I pad the account so that way if that deal doesn't close next month, I'm still going to be okay next month? But then how much runway do I have? So that, especially when you're first starting out, you might not have a lot of runway. But then as you continue to grow, like one of our clients doesn't do a ton of deals. He does probably 5 to 15 deals a year. Last year, because of the habits that he had built and because of times where when he had more, he was still putting in what he was supposed to in like for that quarter or whatever. He was just trying to get ahead. By June of 2022, he had filled up his accounts for all of 2022. So like if those deals didn't close and they got pushed out, his cash, instead of going crazy up and down, was just going to be even the whole time. So like there, it's like, okay, the deal doesn't close or it gets pushed to the next month. It doesn't matter. You know, like this month now shows negative, but then the next month shows wildly positive. Okay, great. But I had the cash to be able to weather that crazy down month because it didn't close until the next month. So that's where you have to know your business. You have to be able to project, but then you also just have to be able to say, if I have a system like this, do I need to plan for that, those, some of these properties not to close, and what can we allocate to make sure I'm going to be okay as the owner, and then the business is going to be okay to still run payroll, run the marketing campaigns, run the different things inside of here. So that's how I would answer that without diving into a specific situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty in depth though for the conversation that we're having here, because
Yeah.
one of the most aha things for me was just that fun 10% money that we put
Yeah.
aside every single month. All of the income, 10% gets put aside and that's yours to keep. And as a real estate investor, it's like, man, I can invest that. I could put this into these properties, whatever the case may be. But you're big on this, and I love it because I felt like I needed. It sounds silly, but like people need permission, right? Sometimes to
Right.
spend money or
Yep.
whatever, and I needed that permission because we were just keeping everything in one account, so it didn't feel like we had any extra money because it wasn't getting
Mm.
allocated. And so, can you talk about that, like of what
Yeah.
that does for people? Because you've seen a lot of investors who are probably maybe hanging on for dear life. They don't want to add new accounts or they don't want to switch this up. But like, just kind of maybe a testimonial of how
Sure.
some of these people have responded to the change.
The guy that I was even talking about there, he was very much like, "Oh, to set up all these accounts." And I literally asked him, "Is what you're doing right now working? Are you happy with your current position? Like, and the way that the money is being ran right now?" Like, no is the obvious answer when anyone ever says that, because obviously that's what it's going to come back. Then I'm like, what could it hurt to give every dollar a name? Like, set up one account then. If you don't want to set up all the accounts for the system, because I teach about 5 or 6 that you should set up for each individual, business that you have. Like if you have a wholesale, rental, fix and flips, that you should set up these core accounts. I'm like, okay, set up one. Can you just get into the habit of not spending every dollar that you make? Like, can you name it profit, transfer a certain percentage and just not touch it? It's like that. So that's where I try and tell people, where I'm trying to build a good habit inside of you, where you might have had a bad habit before. The other thing too, from that, what you were saying, one of the things you had struggled with was being able to not feel guilty of taking money out. And honestly, that comes up a lot, which I thought it might be people not feeling guilty, but maybe they would be overspending. But a lot of people come to us, and then once they actually open up, they're like, "Man, I'm just scared to spend the money or to take any for myself," and they feel either guilty or ashamed or embarrassed, or like, "It's been really good, and I feel like there's extra, but can I really take it out, or should I keep it all in there? Because I just here always invest in your business, so shouldn't I just keep the expenses growing and like to grow the company?" And it's like, well, no, we got to take a step back and say, number one, why did we start the business? And then number two, find that keep number. Can I set up the account for like my owner's comp and start putting in what I need to keep, so I'm separating it out so I know I can at least pay myself and pay all the bills? So maybe maybe if you wanted to, you could do a tiered system, like set up the owner's comp first and just see if you can pay yourself. Then set up profit for icing on the cake. Set up the tax account, make sure, you have taxes at the end of the year, that, the tax payments, so that way you're not worried about that. But it's like, here's how I would say is that if you get this in place, it gives you that clarity to say, okay, I could take money from this account and it's not going to hurt over here. That's where we have clients, another client where he knows where every dollar is, and he had this problem. He came to us and he said, I have 6 figures in one account, but I'm spared, and I want this really nice watch. Like that's 4,000, but I'm scared to spend the money, like on that. And like that account wasn't going, he did not have wild expenses. Like it wasn't going to be the next month he spent 60,000 and he's running a $60,000, expenses a month
You're talking
on
about
his
his
company.
profit account though, right?
Right.
Just his profit
This was
account.
just profit. This was just like extra funds before he started profit first. Like he
Oh
had some
wow.
extra funds, but he was scared to touch it because he wasn't sure if he would like ruin his company, or like, like, was this a bad decision to make? Like he had some just mental hurdles. And so we started working with him and said, you know what? We've done an analysis, and that 100 is basically like what you could start your profit account at. So yes, you could go buy the $4,000 watch and it's not going to ruin your life and your business, so that's
Wow.
where some people have those hangups as well too when it comes to money. And just having a system, or even someone to say it's okay, it's
Yeah.
okay to spend that money. It's not even that you have to think about that you're going to ruin the company. Like right now, we just have to work. We have to make sure, do we have it separated out? Are we going to be okay? Is the business going to be okay? And making sure we put those first things first.
Yeah, and that's such a just a good feeling to be able to know that
Yes,
I have this profit, I can spend it,
totally.
everything else is gonna keep running as normal. So, once you've read the Real Estate Profit First book, Profit First for Real Estate Investors,
Yeah,
once you have set this money aside, this is our permission to you guys listening
there you
to
go.
go ahead and spend that money, however you desire, because that's what it's for. It's the profit first.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think a lot of us, struggle with that. So I think it's a good thing to just be reminded of it.
Yep, and that's why we set up the profit account. I even call these when I like give a presentation. The profit account is like the why account. Why did I start my business? It wasn't to run around with a crazy chicken with his head cut off, going living deal to deal. It's like that is literally the profit unlocking your purpose, like more of it, like that profit account. Take up the 50% out of the profit account once a quarter and do whatever the heck you want with it. Buy an awesome car, go on an awesome trip, buy more real estate with it. Don't just put it in your OPEX account, but be intentional with it. Like,
Yeah.
even if you want to buy an asset, it's like, I don't care what you spend it on. Just don't put it into your OPEX and just you say you're covering those sins of growing the business. It's like, wait a second. Why don't we adjust your profit percentage then and be intentional about how much we want to pour in versus just at the end of the quarter? And then the owner's comp account, like if you have that to be able to know what you need to keep on a regular basis, you're paying yourself like weekly, bi-weekly out of there. That's the other big thing too. It's like then you have permission to actually pay yourself for the
Yeah.
work you're doing in the business, so you don't have to feel stressed out all the time. Where profit is like the icing on the cake. It is literally what to help you fulfill why you started the company. The other one's to make sure you're being taken care of on a regular basis, so your family doesn't have to worry, so you don't have to worry. So it's like, here we go. I know this money is for me to pay myself. So that's just a couple of those things to make sure, like he was like, just like Michael was saying, you can have permission now because you have that clarity that it's not going to touch the rest of the money. Just like, like with the guy that had a bunch of money at in June, he was able to, in that same year, he has a giving account to give to others and to give to like camp for kids. He,
It's
at the
amazing.
end of that year, was able to give more than what he lost when he first came to us. He lost $70,000 in 2019. In 2022, he gave $75,000 from one account to a camp for kids, but still didn't touch his profit, owner's comp, his taxes, or his operational expenses. Like that's the power of compounding good habits and fulfilling the purpose of why you even started the business. So that's where a lot of people go from the yes, I do deserve this money, and yes, it is okay to take it out. Yes, it is okay to do these types of things and to fulfill why I even started the business for this financial freedom. So I love that you brought
Wow.
that up because that
Dude,
was that was a
th
good one.
absolutely value. Just drop the mic right now. We could end the podcast here, and everyone would have more than they came here for. But honestly, David, like the fact that somebody starts this and they can give $70,000 away, that's true purpose. Like
Right.
I know a lot of us started businesses to make money. I know a lot of us need money to survive, but when you can give and you have a bigger purpose behind what you're doing, that's what this is all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of the clients we work with set up a giving account, and they're very intentional. Of as I grow, I want my giving to grow as well too, and that's where a lot of people have something like that, or they're just like very intentional with what they do with the profit account. Like okay, I've always had a goal. Like I love you bought a car like this last year with I believe with the, like the profit. It's like this is a dream
Yeah.
car. Like please be able to do those things. Like this is why you started the business, was literally to be able to do these things either with your family or the cars are doing the things that why you with the delusions of grandeur that were just delusions when you first started, and then they become reality. Like everyone just thinks that's cool for Michael, but how did he get there? Well, guess what? He took steps that you can take as well too. You can take them. He's going to teach you a lot of how to make the money. Then on the back end, have a system like Michael has to keep the money, to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm keeping. And that way you could go out and do the fun things in life as well too, of why you even started the business. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, man. And it's not just gonna fall into your lap. Like the fact that you're listening to this
Yeah.
show is one step ahead of most people because a lot of people they'll run this race for many, many years until maybe they burn themselves out of it because it's just a whirlwind and
Yeah.
it's really taxing on a person to do that. So outside of profit first, what else do you have going on these days? Are you investing yourself in real estate? What do you have going on, man?
So I did sell everything I had a few years ago to start this business and to do, like I'm a very focused person. So I do one thing at a time. I have started with a family member, actually training them and mentoring them on real estate and like trying to get their first deal and getting on the phone and all that. So we're just in like week 3 of that. And that's how I'm entering the real estate game again. But this time I'm
Love it.
having, yeah, I'm being able to mentor and train someone to be able to do that. So I'm really excited about that. So that's one thing. But honestly, I'm very focused on this business and with making sure that we're being as intentional as possible with what I believe God has given me of this message to go out and be able to just bring this and bring hope to people and be able to say, okay, if you need this, like here we are, whether it's this podcast or, a podcast or a book or whatever it might be, or service. How can we make sure that you're actually getting what you wanted from your company? Because if I can knock that domino down, like you said, a lot of us get into it to make money and for financial freedom, but we're never able to unlock what that real purpose is behind it because we never have time to think about it. That guy who was able to give 70,000 the first year he came to us, he was $70,000 in the hole, and like he had gotten overweight that year. He had like been working 100-hour weeks. He wasn't able to spend the time with the kids that he wanted to. It's like all the things, just all the things pile up, like you said, and then people just want to quit. Like he at one point said, I absolutely hate real estate. Like it's like
Yeah.
being a full-time fix and flipper. And it's like going from that to, okay, now I can give, now I can do these things. Now I can take a month road trip with my kids and with my family. That's what it's all about.
At 100%. Like firsthand experience. I've been in the business for 5 years now. And like it becomes less and less about money every single day that I'm in real estate. It
Yeah.
becomes more about the why and more about the freedom and the time, the most valuable thing that we have. And how do we get that? We have systems in place. We have profit first. We know exactly how much money we're making, how much we're spending. So good, man. If you guys have questions for David, drop it in the comments below. And while people are thinking of questions, if anybody has any that they want to ask, um, you've done a great job, David, about getting this message out there. I feel like I see you everywhere. At all the conferences I go to, you're on stage, all of the podcasts. So I appreciate everything that you're doing for the real estate community with this.
I appreciate that too. Like if you know me on a personal level and we're close friends, then you would know I'm very much an introvert, and like stuff like this and like the speaking on stage. Like if you would have told me this like 5-10 years ago, I would have like laughed you away. But now it's like I just believe in the message so much that like I have to be able to share this. I've had a full day. Like I think I've presented twice today and been on 2 different podcasts, and I'm like I want to share this as much as humanly possible. So yeah, I love going to the events. I love doing that, but it's what I've been able to see now. I've been able to see literally hundreds of companies now come through, work with us, and then be able to see them go from then going out of business to having the cash reserves and doing the things that they love to do. That is exciting to me because it's like I said, my real purpose is not just to implement profit first. It's to knock down the domino or like knock down this thing of finances are something that are holding me back from being the best human or being fulfilling the purpose I know that I was put on this earth for, or even unlocking that. Because if you're worried about the money, you can't even think about stuff like that. You can't think about working on the business or on myself or on those big goals. So that's where I have to get this out. But if you know me personally, I go to these events sometimes, and if I'm not on stage, it's usually hard to find me. I'm like in a corner or I'm back in my room. I would just rather be like by myself. So yeah, but I love that. I love being able to spread the message. But behind the scenes, I'm like, please just leave me alone.
Well, it's amazing, man, and you're doing a great job. And I think just knowing how much effort that takes to travel, to take time away from your family,
Yeah.
to go and share these messages, like I get it, man, and I have so much respect for it. And you're reaching a lot of people and helping a lot of people. So for people who are interested in Profit First, want to learn more about what you have going on,
Yeah.
where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you?
So simplecfo.com is the one-stop shop. We have the Profit First REI podcast there, which Michael has been on and told his story, which man, I loved his episode. I think it's coming out soon, and I absolutely love that one. Then we also have the book link there. It's on Amazon, but then the book link is there. And also, if you want to book a call with our team. So that's all in that one spot, simplecfo.com. So that'll get you access to more info here. If you're like, hey, I need to hear more stories about Profit First, or I'd like to dive into the actual book. How do I set this up? You don't have to work with us in order to set up Profit First. Like that's if you buy the book, that'll give you the good first steps. If you need someone to hold you accountable, want a financial leader on your team, that's kind of what we do. Go into more of that. But that's where you go to simplecfo.com. It's a one-stop shop.
Beautiful. So check out simplecfo.com. Buy the book. I bought this book for my business partner the second that I
Nice.
read it. I'm like, okay, I don't know if you're with me, but I'm setting all this stuff up. So hopefully you can get on board. So go check the book out and check out the podcast. Like you said, I'll be coming up on a next show so you can hear my story if you haven't already. But any last thoughts that you want to leave listeners with, man?
So if no one has any questions, some of the biggest questions I get about Profit First, which I think I've answered this probably 4 times today on the different things, but what the biggest one is, if I have a bunch of entities, do I set up Profit First for each entity, or what do I do? Like I have a bunch of rental properties in different LLCs. So that's where I would say number one, if you have different entity types, like a wholesale company, a fix and flip company, rental company, set up Profit First for each individual company and each individual like business function. But then if you have a bunch of little rentals, like a series LLC or like LLCs for all your rental properties, you don't have to set it up for each property. That would be overkill. That's probably one of the biggest questions I get. These are business bank accounts. It's another easy one. If you're wondering what bank to use your bank first. Like just try to get the system set up. If you're like, well, they're not friendly, all this stuff, it's like, okay, is there an online bank like Relay or Charles Schwab or some of these ones that I really like out there, as far as that goes. Then, as far as one piece of advice to take from this. So, if you don't do anything from this podcast, but do 2 things. Number one, the keep number. Find what you need to keep. Take back control of your life and business. Don't live someone else's life. Number 2, set up the actual system. Maybe you could just set up one account, name it profit, transfer 1%. It could be that simple. Get into the good habits of being an actual, like you don't spend everything that you make and that you're actually intentional with every dollar that comes in. There you go.
Boom. That's amazing. Well, I appreciate you for coming on, brother.
Yeah,
Means a
for sure.
lot. Ton of value here. And if you got value, guys, make sure to share this. Tell a friend. Obviously we do this because we want to provide value to you guys, but the reason David is doing this is because he needs to reach more people and he wants to make more of an impact. And I'm the same way. And so it would mean everything to us if you would share this. Tell a friend. Order the book. Send your business owner friend the Profit First for Real Estate Investors book, because they will thank you later. And with that, that is it for today. So thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it, and have an amazing day and a good weekend.